Hello, hello, my podcasting friend. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode on As It Relates to Podcasting. I'm Simona, and I am the host of the show. And today we have a very special co-host joining me for a 4-part series all about LinkedIn. I'm going to introduce him to you in a second, but in this first part today, we are talking about LinkedIn, the networking opportunities, and how to optimize your profile and how to make sure that you're making an impact with your content on that platform. Now, we are talking and tapping into all of the untapped potential that LinkedIn has and why it should be an essential tool in your personal podcasting growth arsenal. Now, if your podcast aligns to this audience, I definitely would specifically pay attention to all of the tips that Rich is sharing. And also, if you just want to up your personal brand and really make an impact and become the thought leader that you know you are in your space, in your niche, be sure to listen all the way through these 4 episodes because you are going to learn so much. In this conversation specifically, we are talking about why LinkedIn is often underutilized as a platform and why you should be leveraging it to advance your career. We're talking about everything from missed networking opportunities to mindset challenges, dealing with spam messages, and everything in between. We are covering it all. And it does not stop there because we are also providing valuable insights on showing up authentically, engaging with your comments, being present in your LinkedIn feed, and positioning yourself as the go-to expert in your field. So let's introduce my friend, Rich. Rich Perry is a business communication and marketing strategist, and he helps you build the brand your customers will trust. Entrepreneurs who have an important message to share hire Rich when they want to design an optimized and powerful strategy to reach their audience, build brand authority, and turn casual visitors into lifelong customers. He also co-authored Bankroll Your Mind, which is an international #1 bestseller, and was a contributing author in 3 books focusing on personal development. He's also a writer for Entrepreneur and other respected online publications. So if you're as excited as I am to get into all the juicy goodness that is LinkedIn and LinkedIn marketing and LinkedIn optimization, let's get right into it. Rich, thank you so much for joining me on this series of As It Relates to Podcasting.
Absolutely. I know that you and I set it up a while ago. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you and sharing some good things about LinkedIn. Thank you, Simona.
I'm really excited about it. LinkedIn is one of those things for me that I know about LinkedIn and I use it for my content, and I don't think that I use it to my fullest potential. I know that much for sure. And so I know that our listener right now probably is not also using it to their fullest potential either. And I think that it's a really powerful platform where you can go on and you can educate and you can still inspire, but mostly positioning yourself as that go-to resource in your space.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that I don't feel that LinkedIn, it's not in the spotlight where like a TikTok or an Instagram or a Facebook or a Twitter, the CEO isn't out there making, you know what I'm saying? Is it out there?
Like all these videos
Right.
and on there and all the stuff and yes, no, I know exactly what you're saying. I feel like this platform is so underutilized because and you tell me what you think about this because I know that you use it a lot. And when I used to use LinkedIn more, I always used it for applying for jobs. Like I had my profile done and it was there and everything was filled out and whatever. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about, optimizing your LinkedIn profile. We're going to be talking about, using it as a networking platform. But one thing that I found was as soon as I got out of corporate, I almost didn't really know if it was still a good platform for me to use because I was like, well, I'm an entrepreneur now and it's all just corporations on there and people who are working in corporate. Like, why would anyone want a podcast producer if you're not an entrepreneur? You know what I mean? Like all these things started going through my mind. What are your thoughts off the bat?
So I think that was the image of it a long time ago. It was just a job search engine. However, it's gone through a lot of changes and evolution. I mean, if you are a professional, regardless of your industry, I highly recommend being on LinkedIn and actively being on LinkedIn as opposed to something that we learned probably in college or soon after. You get on, you treat it like your resume, you put your stuff up there, and then maybe you check in with it once a week. You should be using it if you're a serious professional, regardless of your industry. Be as active on LinkedIn as you are on the Facebook and the Instagram, the TikToks, things like that, because there are a lot of opportunities for you as a professional on LinkedIn.
Okay, we're going to talk about what all of those opportunities are as we go through our 4-part series. But I want to talk first about why people should use LinkedIn when it comes to their businesses, when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to their podcast, and when it comes to them as professionals. Like, what are the missed opportunities of not being on there?
So right now there are over 930 million professionals using LinkedIn for professional purposes. So if
Wow.
you're like a B2B service provider, okay, your ideal client is probably on LinkedIn. This is fertile ground for you to be getting on there, networking, building those quality relationships, meeting the decision makers in that digital space, and then turning it into real life connections. Now, if one of your listeners right now does something like a B2C, I don't know, maybe they sell candles or something like that. Okay, maybe your ideal client isn't shopping for candles on a LinkedIn. However,
Right.
maybe you can meet somebody, other store owners who are interested in selling those candles in their stores. That's just an example. However, I encourage you to think creatively, and I know we're going to talk about this in a 4-part series, but I'm encouraging you, the listener, to think creatively, because people that you want to meet, maybe directly or indirectly, are on LinkedIn for business growth opportunities.
Okay, I love that. And one thing that I want to ask you right off the bat is I've noticed that, if you think about it on the networking side of this, and we can talk more about this in a bit, but on the networking side of this, I see this all of the time now where people will connect with me on LinkedIn and it's kind of spammy. You know what I mean? And so like I feel like it's almost like I want to use the platform, but I don't need more spam in the form of LinkedIn. I already get enough of that on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, right? And so it's like, what is that fine line between the two of like using it as a networking platform and then also using it like to connect with other people? Is there a best practice when it comes to the networking side of it? Are there best practices of what you should be doing in the messages and the DMs, like things that you should be saying, things that you should not? And then afterwards, let's talk about optimizing your profile and making sure that it's all good and good to go.
Definitely. So, Simona, to your first point, unfortunately, there are people out there, and regardless of the platform, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or TikTok, there are people out there that use it for annoying purposes, spammy purposes.
I was like, use it for bad. No, I'm just kidding.
Disingenuous purposes. Right. Use it for bad.
Use it for bad.
There are those people out there, regardless of the platform. Okay.
Right.
There are some people out there that just don't know how to build long-lasting relationships, and they think that, here's an example, and it's not going to be PG, but hopefully your audience is okay with that.
Oh yeah,
it's like
we're good with that.
You go into like a singles bar, or you go to like a place, right? You have the option of walking up to someone that you're interested in, having a real life conversation with that person to see if there's chemistry.
Right.
You also have the opportunity to go in there, pick up some tail for that night, and that's it, right? Okay, there are some people that go in this world and they want to build real relationships in professional ways. There are some people that aren't interested in that, and they're just in it for the one night stand.
Right.
And unfortunately, if you go to the bar, you might have that happen to you. In the business world, you might go on LinkedIn and you have those knuckleheads in your inbox trying to spam you on the latest and greatest thing. And
SEO or tool or podcast promotion strategy or whatever. Like I feel like I get a lot of that stuff on my LinkedIn inbox. It's like, ma'am, can I help you promote your podcast? And I'm like, no, you may not.
I think that if the listener has that frame of mind that, this is just obviously somebody that I'm not interested in building a relationship with. Again, the club or the bar mentality. Not everyone that you go and meet at the spot is someone you want to have a relationship with. Same thing with digital social marketing and things like that using LinkedIn. Not everybody is your ideal client. Not
Right.
everybody is your ideal partner in a professional sense. So just keep that in
Right.
mind that, hey, that person's not for me.
That's a really good point. Okay, so let's say you have in your messages, in your DMs, people on posts commenting different things and connecting with you and stuff like that. When you look at this from a networking perspective,
Mm-hmm.
what are the missed opportunities by not showing up with an open mind when it comes to approaching these conversations, especially if it's someone that you don't know?
It boils down to, for me, being clear on what it is that you want and
Hmm.
how you're best going to serve other people. There might be great opportunities placed in front of you. Okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we'll go back to the example before about people sliding into your inbox. Maybe someone really is genuine. Maybe they really do have that awesome program and they've had huge success rates.
Right.
However, if it's not something that you think is going to be advantageous for you in the present
Mm-hmm.
moment, maybe that's something where you're like, hey, you know what? Sounds like you really have a great service or a great product. I would like to keep this professional relationship, but right now, this is not something that I'm looking for. I think if you
Mm.
genuinely approach it like that, you'll 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 save those opportunities because maybe it's not right for you in this present moment, but it might be right for you 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now. You don't want to burn that bridge, but you're just telling
Yeah.
that person, like, hey, man, like, I appreciate you reaching out to me. However,
Mm-hmm.
right now, this is not what I'm looking for. However, hey, maybe until I'm ready or until it is something of interest to me, let's just keep this relationship. If I have a referral, I'll refer to you. I might
Yeah.
need to reach out and ask a question. Likewise, you can, ask me questions. Let's keep this relationship. But right now, there may not be that exchange of money at present time.
Love that. And I think too that this is the thing. I know this is a problem that I have when I'm on LinkedIn. Like I'm already on so many different platforms as it is that I feel like I get overwhelmed with the amount of messages. But then it's like it's always remembering like why you're on there to begin with, like we were talking about a little bit in the beginning. So can you give us like just before we dive into, because I really want to talk about, your profile and making sure you're maximizing your profile and, you're showcasing your recognitions and awards and volunteer and like, testimonials and like all that kind of stuff. But can we just go back for a hot second to why you should consider being on LinkedIn? Like top 3 reasons why.
That's where decision makers are. That's where
Hmm.
the professional decision makers, the shot callers, the people that are actually doing things, that's where they're on. Yes, they're probably on Facebook. Yes, they're probably
Yeah.
also on Instagram and things like that. But some of these people treat those other platforms like the Facebook and the Instagram as more a social opportunity, okay?
Right.
They're posting pictures of their family and their trips and things like that, but they know when they go and click in, when they go and log in to LinkedIn, I'm in my business mindset. So when you're reaching out to these people and networking, that's what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about what they ate for dinner or what
Mm.
you posted about your dinner. They're looking at it like, okay, we're both on this platform. We're here to talk business. So
Right.
right there, that's why I think people should be focusing activity on LinkedIn. I'm not saying you need to be on there every single day if that's not your preferred social medium. However, I'm encouraging people to go back and get more active on LinkedIn.
Hmm. I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, there's so many reasons why you can be and you should be on LinkedIn. And I think too, there's also something to be said about it might not actually be the right platform for you to like do your marketing and stuff like that on it, but we will talk about that. Like our next few series, if you're listening to this first one right now, we are going to be talking about using LinkedIn for guest search, and we're going to be talking about, creating content that performs well and then creating like an overall marketing strategy when it comes to LinkedIn. So you'll have to stick around for all 4 parts of this series so that you can get like the full effect. But I think the beginning part of all of this and where most people should focus their efforts first, or could focus their efforts first rather, is making sure that their profile is properly set up and that it's actually optimized. Can you talk a little bit about the key things that you should have on your LinkedIn profile and why?
Absolutely. So, first off, as we've been talking about, I want you to start thinking about, this is the place where I go to represent myself as a professional. And this
Love
will be
that.
the first time I say it, but it's not going to be the last time I say it in this series, Simona. Think about LinkedIn in a dynamic sense instead of a static sense. Okay. Dynamic, it's always growing, it's always changing, it's evolving. You're always adding to it because you, as a professional, are growing in your skill sets, in your
Right.
abilities, in the awards and recognitions that you gain. Okay. So it's not one of those things where you set it and forget it, because you're constantly growing. You're constantly changing and evolving and growing in your skill set to then give more of yourself to the people that you serve.
Love
So
that.
your LinkedIn profile should also be growing. Okay. It should always be updated. You should always be adding to it. Okay. So the things that you first need, remember, is you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Okay. When people go onto your profile, they'll know just like that whether, hey, this person's a serious professional, or they're probably not even here. Right.
Yeah.
It's an inactive profile, or they set it 5 years ago and they haven't been here ever since. Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first thing you want is an attractive professional headshot of you for your profile photo. I also recommend getting a nice, attractive photo for your cover image. Okay. And that's a great place to also represent your brand and what it is that you do, because it covers a large piece of real estate right at the top
Yeah.
as soon as they log onto your profile. So professional looking headshot, professional looking cover shot. And if you don't know a photographer in your local area, everyone knows a photographer. But if you don't know a photographer, go to a networking event. There's always a photographer there. And many
Yeah.
networking events always have a photographer floating around taking headshots. So that's something I encourage people. Everyone knows a photographer, but if you don't know one,
Everyone.
go to a networking event. There's a photographer there, guaranteed.
Your local BNI, you'll always find one.
Right. Another thing I encourage people, this is more for like aesthetics, okay? But it's that little bit of extra, okay? Go into your profile and create a unique URL. All right. When you first log on and create your LinkedIn profile, you're going to get that Rich Perry 759er exclamation point hashtag, right? Okay, go. It's easy. It's easy peasy. It's right there on the right hand side. It says like update URL, something along those lines. Press that button. And if you're someone who you're active on other social media platforms, maybe you have a branded URL, a branded handle that you use. Make it the same one. Like for me, it's so easy to have I have a unique URL. It's Coach Rich Perry. Same handle on Instagram, same handle on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. It's Coach Rich Perry. If I'm on that social platform, you can find me at Coach Rich Perry.
I like that. I just have to interject really quick
Mm-hmm.
because I think that this is like a personal brand, which we're going to talk about personal brand in our second episode together, but it's kind of like a personal brand meets marketing meets strategy all around to have the same links, which I am guilty of. Like I don't have the same links for everything. And it's hard for people to, not hard for people to find, but it's just so much easier for people to find you if they know exactly what they're looking for. And you're establishing that credibility in your brand. So I think that's really key. I like that you brought that up.
Awesome. And then the rest, I know that we're going to go deeper. So we'll do more of like the 30,000 foot view right now.
Yes.
Is fill out every area. Fill out every area. I know no matter who you are, if you're listening to Simona's podcast right now, you are an accomplished person. Okay. So make sure you're filling out your work experience. And that doesn't mean just marketing director of such and such agency. End of story. No, go into the work experience area and fill out explaining what you did. If you are unsure, go to your resume, because I'm sure in your resume area you have, I did this, blah, blah, blah. These are the results I achieved, right? So put all that stuff in your work experience area, because when people go to your profile, they don't want to just see that you were marketing manager of such and such agency. They want to see, these are the things that I did. These are the results that I got. And then Again, fill out every area. Awards, recognitions. Are you part of any organizations in the community? The skills, the recommendations area. Fill it all out. I know we're going to get deeper into the weeds later, but
Oh
fill it
yeah.
all out.
That is genius. And I'm thinking to myself right now, my wheels are spinning because I'm so guilty of that. I literally have like the title of I'm like founder of Costantini Productions is literally what I have on my LinkedIn. And I have no information or context or whatever in there of what I do on a day-to-day and what we do for our clients on a monthly, weekly, daily basis, right? So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, like I actually thought that I was like decently well versed in LinkedIn, but I got to go back and update all of that. So that's a good reminder. Thank you.
You're welcome. And remember, folks, this is a great because someone may not know your website, even though that's another
Mm,
thing is to have your website linked into your LinkedIn profile. However, they may not know because a marketing manager at this agency is different than a marketing manager at this agency. A podcast
right,
host in this niche is going to be doing different things than a podcast host in this niche. Keynote speaker
right.
in this area, different than a keynote speaker in this area. You have a wonderful opportunity to fill out those areas on your profile to really speak to that reader. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I serve. This is how I can help you. Fill out
Mm.
those areas, and you're one step closer to having that solid relationship established without even speaking a word because your LinkedIn profile said it for you.
I love that. I love that so much. That's amazing. I want to talk a little bit too. I think we're just gonna have to dive deep into this in the next episode because I want to talk a lot about positioning yourself, and I feel like positioning yourself goes hand in hand with developing your personal brand. So, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I am going to caveat this episode today. And for our listeners listening right now, if you want to listen to the next episode and not have to wait us about like to hear us talk about personal brand and positioning and using LinkedIn to search for your guests and using it for podcasting, I suggest that you go and sign up on my Patreon because on my Patreon, you have access to all of the episodes in advance. So I'm going to shamelessly plug that in there too because I think it's important. Would you say that there's anything else that we're missing from this conversation, Rich? Like, is there anything that, you feel like we haven't touched on that's important to know when it comes to like setting up and like optimizing your LinkedIn profile from the start?
No, because I know we
Okay.
want to go deeper, but I'm going to
I
throw
know.
it back real quick and remind the listener dynamic, not static. Okay, because I'm going
Mm,
to say it multiple times because it's so important that your profile should be growing with you as you grow. Dynamic, not
mm.
static.
I love that. I love that so much. It's very easy to just like set it and forget it when it comes to LinkedIn. You hook up your LinkedIn to your later.com account and you have your posts go out automatically and whatever. And then I do this sometimes and I open my LinkedIn and it's been 2 weeks and I'm like, oh my God, like look at all of these comments on my posts. Or like, look at all these people who are engaging. I'm like, I got to do a better job because clearly if you're posting content and the content is resonating, people want to hear from you. And it's like, how else do you become a thought leader in your space? And people look at that, right? If you're trying to secure speaking engagements or branding opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, all kinds of stuff, people are going to go look at your platforms and see what is the engagement, how present are you? And I think that's really important to caveat before we wrap up this episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that we're going to go deeper into that, but folks, you need a marketing strategy. You also need
Yeah.
a communication and engagement strategy. Nothing, and this goes
Mm.
beyond LinkedIn. Okay, so whether your ideal channel, your ideal medium, favorite medium is Facebook or Instagram or wherever it is, okay,
Yeah.
a communication strategy and engagement strategy builds that two-way street. It's a relationship. You want to have a relationship. You're the idea is to have that relationship with your ideal customer or client. You don't want to be in a romantic relationship that's one sided. You don't want to be in a friendship that's one sided. So, why
Right.
would you want to set up a business relationship that's one sided where you're not listening to the other person? There isn't that give and take exchange. If the idea of your service is to create long lasting, loyal customers or clients, then you can't do that with a one-way street relationship, with a one-way street
Mm.
communication. Okay. It needs to be two-way.
I love that. I think that's really important. And I think that two-way relationship perfectly lines into personal branding. So I think that we should wrap up our episode today. And so we can get into, because we're like dancing around it. Like I know that we both want to dive into it. And I'm just like, whoo, so we're going to leave you all on a cliffhanger so that you have to come back and listen to next week's episode, our second part of our 4-part series. What do you think, Rich?
I agree.
Amazing. Okay. Thanks so much for joining me for this first one. This was fun. I liked it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Simona.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. If you love what you heard, be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. That would be Apple or Spotify. 5 stars if you feel like we deserve 5 stars. I love it. Super grateful for you tuning into this episode. I hope you learned a lot, and I would love to know what you took away from this conversation with Rich and I. Be sure to connect with both of us, and you can find us using the links in the show notes. And don't forget to grab Rich's free LinkedIn marketing strategy quiz, which you can also find in the show notes below. Thanks again so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you on the next one.